IHM Ahmedabad at 50. Lunch is served. At IHM Ahmedabad, we had a practice, as all other IHMs had, that the students who had food and beverage service practicals stayed back in the training restaurant after doing the mise à plat and the mise à scene to serve our guests lunch. The guests included the teaching faculty members, the administrative staff, and the principal. The food and beverage service faculty members, teaching faculty members, were on their feet in the restaurant, supervising us, guiding us in service. So this was training, learning, actually, what we had learned during our practicals to do it actually for guest service. But this quaint practice, which was practiced probably only by IHM Bombay and IHM Ahmedabad, was of the waiter, waitress on duty to go to each guest to invite them personally for with a starched, ironed white waiter's cloth on the left forearm. At IHM Bombay, Miss Tangam Philip, the principal and the godmother of the hospitality education in India, with her aging in years, would go to a cottage within the campus for a simple home cooked meal to rest to return by 1600 hours. But this sounds easy, doesn't it? This invitation? But it is not as easy as you think, because if you were at IHM Ahmedabad and you assigned to beard the lion in his den, that is inviting the founder principal, Mr. nmrafique, it was nerve-wracking in the beginning and throughout, I mean, for that matter. The standard script would be knocking on his door, take permission to enter. Of course, he's expecting us because he had initiated that practice. And he would look up from his paperwork to consent us to go and to approach him near his table. It's about a walk of 6 feet almost from the door to his desk. And we had to invite him with, "Excuse me, sir, good afternoon, lunch is served." And the next question would be, what is the menu for the day? Now, the menu would be recited. I recall one experience particularly after 3 or 4 decades. The menu was an all Hyderabadi affair: mutton biryani, halim, bagara bangan, and shahi tukda, if I remember right. He nodded his head, stretched his arms out, and as I slowly tried to edge out of the cabin, and scamper to the safety of the corridor, he fired the first salvo. Neelkantan, what is the difference between pulao and biryani? I tried to explain. I knew it was in vain, but I was going uphill. But somehow he heard me. He asked me to find out and get back to him. The next one was, what is the name of the why is bagara bangan served in this menu and not bangan ka bharta? The third one was, what is the poor man's version of shahi tukda? So I said, double ka meetha. I was very confident. And so he says, what? Could you explain both to me? I recited the menu, I recited the recipe. I was confident in that. So I said, here comes one. At least I can bat one. I can dispatch this to the boundary. Mr. Rafiq, sorry, but I'm going to cover drive you, classy cover drive. And then he asked me, then he told me, Neelkantan, thank you, but that I asked you for the simple explanation for a guest, not the recipe. So I was trying again, but he kept helping, assisting me, and finally I got around to learning what is the difference between a shahi tukda and how would you explain that to a guest, and a double ka meetha. By that point in my mind, after when he was questioning me and asking me firing all these salvos, I was prepared to clasp both my hands at my forehead, the typical North Indian style, and say, a communicate of exasperation with, Jai Ram Ji ki, you want to have lunch? Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Lunch is served. You're invited. Please go and have lunch. But then at the back of the mind, we were aware he was not taking any sadistic pleasure, but he had an objective on his mind. I did not find this practice at Pusa or Madras or at any other IHMs. But the objective was clear. You had to have complete knowledge of the menu. The least you can do to prepare to answer with confidence. But there would be, however, times at which the guest stumps you on the menu with a question which you have not prepared. But as in cricket, he was bowling to us in the nets to bat all the probable questions to make it easy for us in the test match. Today I realize that he was preparing us then for learning to context, not just content, to prepare us to excellent guest service with daily practice. We also had tea coffee service after lunch, and we would ask the guest, "Ma'am, sir, tea or coffee with milk?" 3 decades later, I still recall, 3 or 4 decades, I don't know, let's not forget, remember that. I still recall that, and as I'm sure all of my classmates and everybody else would recall, Mr. Rafique we didn't have to ask him after some times of serving, waiting on him. We just had to confirm with him, "Sir, coffee without milk?" And we just had to put 2 cubes of sugar there. He would take 1 or 2 depending on his liking that day. It was never black tea or black coffee because I asked him only once that. And he looked at me with a smile and then he said, "Neelkantan, are you a racist or implying that I am one?" So I got the message. So then it was never black tea or black coffee. It was always tea without milk or tea or coffee without milk. And I always correct people who do that also. And I've never used this term black coffee or black tea after that. In the 90s, when he came more to the IHM Pusa, where I was a teacher, and he came in his capacity as IHM Ahmedabad principal for some meetings of National Council, he would have lunch with us in the training restaurant at Pusa restaurant with the directors of the National Council and our principal, Mr. Andrews. I would instruct my student who would be serving him, waiting on him, "Listen, you don't have to ask him what to serve him. I'll tell you, just give him coffee without milk with 2 cubes of sugar." That he was inculcating in us that you remember what a guest likes, which is but so essential for the hotelier. Lessons we learnt with the simple practice not only improved our skills, but also rounded off us for excelling at guest service. Confidently embrace the twist to enjoy the turn. Thank you.